Captain Tae Yang stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise, staring at the screen that showed something impossible. A distress signal from Vedrick space. In 70 years of human contact with the galaxy, the Vedrick had never asked for help. They never spoke to other species unless absolutely necessary. They lived in their corner of space and everyone else stayed far away. That was the rule. The Vedrick were the most dangerous species in the known galaxy, and they wanted nothing to do with anyone. "Captain, the Council is ordering us to ignore it," said Ensign Daewon from his station. The young officer looked nervous. "They say approaching Vedrick territory is forbidden." Taeyang rubbed his jaw. He was 45 years old and had spent 20 years in space. He had learned that sometimes the rules needed to be questioned. A distress signal meant someone was dying. The Vedrick might be dangerous, but they were still living beings. "Dr. Bora, what do you think?" he asked. The ship's xenobiologist looked up from her console. Bora was brilliant but quiet, more comfortable with alien biology than with people. She pushed her glasses up her nose. "If they sent a distress signal, something is very wrong. The Vedrick never ask for help, never." "Exactly," Taeyang said. "Which means this is serious. Plot a course to the signal source." Daewon's eyes went wide. "Sir, the Council will—" "The Council is not here," Taeyang interrupted. "We are, and I will not leave someone to die without at least checking what is happening. If the Vedrick want us gone, they will tell us. Until then, we investigate." The ship moved toward the signal, passing through the edge of the exclusion zone. Every member of the crew felt tense. They all knew the stories about the Vedrick. 800 years ago, the Vedrick had gone to war with 3 species at once. They won easily, entire fleets destroyed, colonies burned. The war only ended when the Vedrick themselves chose to stop fighting and retreat into isolation. No one knew why they stopped. No one wanted to find out what might make them start again. "Contact in 10 minutes, reported Daewon. Bora pulled up everything the Galactic database had on Vedrick biology. It was not much. The Vedrick stood 3 meters tall with 8 limbs and armored scales. They had 4 eyes that could see in almost every direction. Their claws could cut through metal. They communicated through a combination of sounds and something close to telepathy that let them coordinate perfectly in battle. They were built to be perfect warriors. Everything about them was designed for combat and survival. "Visual contact," Daewon said. On the screen appeared a Vedrick scout ship spinning slowly in an asteroid field. The hull was torn open in several places. Debris floated around it. There were no power readings, no life support active. "Scan for life signs," Taeyang ordered. Bora worked quickly. "I am detecting—" "Wait." She frowned at her screen. "This is strange. I am detecting 8 Vedrick life signs. 3 are very faint. Almost gone. But 5 are different, smaller, much smaller." "Smaller?" Taeyang moved to look at her screen. "Could the readings be wrong?" "No, sir. 5 of the life signs are definitely Vedrick, but they are tiny, maybe 1/5 the size of an adult." Bora looked confused. "But that does not make sense. The Vedrick do not travel with their young. Ever. According to every record we have, they keep their children hidden on their homeworlds." Taeyang made his decision. "We are boarding that ship. Daewon, prepare the shuttle. Bora, get your medical kit. Full quarantine protocols." 20 minutes later, they were inside the damaged Vedrick ship. The interior was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered. The air smelled of burning metal, and something organic that made them all feel uncomfortable. They found the first body in the main corridor, a Vedrick warrior. Massive even in death, its scales cracked and burned. Whatever attacked this ship had been powerful. 2 more bodies ahead, Daewon said, checking his scanner. They found them near what looked like the control room. 3 adult Vedrick, all dead from their injuries. The scene was violent. The warriors had fought hard to protect something. "Sir, the 5 smaller life signs are through that door," Bora said, pointing to a sealed chamber at the end of the corridor. The door was locked, but Taeyang managed to override it. It slid open slowly. Inside was a sight none of them expected. 5 small Vedrick, each about the size of a human 10-year-old child, huddled together in the corner. They had the same basic shape as adult Vedrick, but their scales were softer, their claws smaller. Their 4 eyes were huge in their small faces. When the door opened, the young Vedrick pulled back, making high-pitched sounds of fear. One of them was bleeding from a wound on its side. "They are children," Bora whispered. "Actual children." Taeyang stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. Easy, we are here to help. The juveniles pressed against each other, trembling. The injured one was barely conscious. Bora scanned them quickly. Captain, the injured one will die within hours without treatment. The others are not hurt badly, but they are terrified and cold. This chamber was keeping them alive, but the ship's power is failing. Can you treat them? Tae-young asked. Maybe. But we would need to bring them to our ship. I do not have the equipment here. Bora bit her lip. Sir, the council will say we are kidnapping Vedrick Young. They will order us to leave immediately. And if we leave, these children die, Tae-young said. He looked at the small Vedrick, seeing the fear in their multiple eyes. They were children, scared children who had watched their guardians die. We are not leaving them. He touched his communicator. Horizon's promise, this is the captain. Prepare medical bay for 5 Vedrick juveniles. Full emergency setup. Sir, the council is transmitting urgent orders, came the reply from the ship. They demand we withdraw immediately. Tell the council we are performing emergency medical assistance. We will discuss it after these children are safe. Tae-young ended the transmission. It took an hour to carefully move the young Vedrick to the shuttle. They were afraid and did not understand that the humans were trying to help. But they were also too weak and scared to fight. The injured one barely moved at all. Back on the Horizon's promise, Bora and the medical team worked fast. Human medicine was not designed for Vedrick biology, but the basics of trauma care worked for most species. Stop the bleeding.
Stabilize the patient.
Keep them warm. The injured juvenile survived the first critical hour. Then the second. Tae-young stood in the medical bay watching Nurse Hyun-woo gently adjust the blankets around the smallest of the young Vedrick. The creature watched the human with all 4 eyes, still afraid but no longer panicking. Sir, you should see this, Dae-won called from the bridge. Tae-young returned to find his worst fear on the screen. Ships. Dozens of them. Vedrick warships, massive and bristling with weapons, dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around the Horizon's promise. They were surrounded. Are they powering weapons? Tae-young asked, his voice steady despite his racing heart. No, sir. They are just waiting. Dae-won looked pale. What do we do? Tae-young stared at the ships that could destroy them in seconds. In the medical bay behind them were 5 Vedrick children who would die without care. He had made his choice. Now he had to live with it. We wait too, he said, and we keep those children alive. 18 hours passed. The Vedrick warships did not move. They did not fire. They did not even send a message. They just stayed in position around the Horizon's promise, silent and waiting. Captain Tae-young tried opening communication channels every hour. Nothing. The Vedrick were known for not talking, but this silence felt heavier. More dangerous, the Galactic Council sent messages constantly. Angry messages. Demanding messages. They wanted Tae-young to put the Vedrick juveniles on automated drones and leave immediately. They said he was risking war. They said he was a fool. Tae-young ignored them all. In the medical bay, his crew was saving lives. That mattered more than politics. Dr. Bora had barely slept. She stayed with the young Vedrick, monitoring every change in their biology. What she was learning fascinated her. These juveniles were nothing like adult Vedrick. Their scales were soft, almost like skin. Their telepathic abilities seemed different, less controlled. They are broadcasting emotions, she told Tae-young during one of his visits to medical. I can feel it even though I am not Vedrick. Just being near them, I can sense their fear. It is like they cannot help sending out what they feel. Is that why the adults are waiting? Tae-young asked. Can they feel what the juveniles are feeling? Maybe, probably. Bora rubbed her tired eyes. If the adults can sense that their young are terrified, they know something bad is happening. But they also know the juveniles are alive. That might be the only reason they have not attacked us yet. Nurse Hyun-woo was working with the smallest juvenile, the one they started calling Little Claw because of its tiny claws. The young Vedrick had been the most frightened at first, but something was changing. Dr. Bora, come look at this, Hyun-woo called. Bora walked over. Hyun-woo was holding Little Claw's limb gently, cleaning a small wound. The juvenile was watching him but not pulling away, not making scared sounds. When I touch them like this, their stress readings go down, Hyun-woo said quietly. See, heart rate dropping. Breathing slower. It is like physical contact calms them. Bora checked her scanner. He was right. That is strange. Most species young calm down with their own kind touching them, not aliens. She ran more tests. This does not make biological sense. Your touch is releasing something in their brain chemistry, a calming response. Over the next hours, they tested it with all 5 juveniles. The results were the same every time. Human touch, human voices, even just humans being near them made the young Vedrick calmer. Safer. How is this possible? Hyunwoo asked. We are completely different species. I do not know, Bora admitted. But the data is clear. These children respond to humans in ways that should not work. On the 30th hour, everything changed. Captain, one of the Vedrick ships is approaching, Daewon reported. It is requesting permission to dock. Tae-yang stood up straight. Grant it, and get security teams ready, but tell them not to show weapons. We greet them peacefully. Sir, they could kill everyone on this ship, Daewon said. They could have destroyed us 30 hours ago, Tae-yang replied. If they wanted us dead, we would be dead. They are here to talk, finally. The airlock opened. What came through made the human security team step back without meaning to. The Vedrick was huge. 3 meters of armored scales and corded muscle, 4 eyes that could see everything at once, 8 limbs, 4 of them touching the ground, the others held ready. This was a creature built for war. Every movement showed deadly grace and power. But what struck Tae-yang most were the scars. This Vedrick had fought in hundreds of battles, and survived them all. I am War Mother Talshin, the Vedrick said in perfect galactic standard language. Her voice was deep and resonant. I am here for my children. Captain Tae-yang, he replied, keeping his voice steady. Your children are in our medical bay. They are alive. We have been caring for them. Talshin's 4 eyes fixed on him. Caring for them. You, an alien species. She did not sound like she believed it. Yes. They were dying when we found them. We could not leave them. The council ordered you to leave, Talshin said. I heard their transmissions. I do not leave children to die, Tae-yang said simply. For a long moment, Talshin said nothing. Then she moved forward. Take me to them now. Tae-yang led her through the ship. Talshin had to duck through doorways. Her claws clicked on the metal floor. Every crew member they passed looked terrified. This was a War Mother, one of the highest-ranking Vedrick warriors. She could kill everyone on the ship in minutes if she wanted. They reached medical bay. Talshin stopped at the door, looking through the window. Inside, all 5 juveniles were resting on beds designed for humans but adjusted as best they could. They had been fed. Their wounds were bandaged. The smallest one, Little Claw, was curled up next to Nurse Hyunwoo, who was reading something from a datapad in a soft voice. Talshin stood completely still. For a full minute, she did not move or speak. Then she entered the medical bay. The juveniles sensed her immediately. They made sounds of recognition and relief. They were calling to their own kind. But they did not move away from the human caretakers. Little Claw stayed pressed against Hyunwoo. Talshin approached slowly. She examined each juvenile carefully, checking their wounds, their condition. She spoke to them in the Vedrick language, sounds that the humans could not understand. Finally, she turned to Bora. You did this. You treated them? Yes, Bora said. We did our best. Human medicine is not designed for your species, but trauma care works similarly for most beings. They are calm, Talshin said. It was not a question, but she sounded confused. They should be terrified of you, of any alien species, but they are calm. We noticed that too, Bora said. She pulled up her research data. May I show you something? For the next hour, Bora shared everything they had discovered. The way human touch calmed the juveniles. The way human voices soothed them. The biological responses that made no sense but were clearly real. Talshin studied the data in silence. She ran her own scans on the juveniles using Vedrick technology far more advanced than anything the humans had. The results matched what Bora found. This is impossible, Talshin finally said. In 800 years of isolation, we have tested every species we knew, looking for any that could help us raise our young without harming them. Every species failed. Everyone. She looked at the humans. You are saying humans are compatible with our juveniles? That you can care for them safely? The data says yes, Bora replied. I do not understand why, but yes. Talshin moved to where Little Claw was resting with Hyunwoo. The nurse looked nervous but did not move. Talshin reached out one massive claw and gently touched the juvenile's head. Little Claw made a soft sound looking between the War Mother and the human. What are you reading to them? Talshin asked Hyunwoo. A story, Hyunwoo said quietly. A human children's story. I know they cannot understand all the words, but the sound of it seems to help them relax. Read more, Talshin ordered. Hyunwoo hesitated, then continued the story. It was about a small creature going on an adventure and making friends. Simple, gentle. The kind of story humans told their own children. Little Claw's 4 eyes started to close. The juvenile was falling asleep, safe between a war mother and a human nurse. Talshin watched this for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer. We have been afraid for so long, afraid that the galaxy would harm our children. That is why we isolated ourselves. Not because we wanted to conquer, because we needed to protect the most vulnerable among us. She turned to Tae-yang. The galaxy has translated our words wrong for centuries. We did not threaten war if others came near. We warned them that our children could not survive contact with most species. That your diseases, your technologies, even your emotions could kill them. Understanding dawned on Tae-yang. You isolated yourselves to protect your children from us, not to protect us from you. Yes, Talshin said, we are dangerous to you. But you are dangerous to them. Or so we thought. She looked at the sleeping juveniles. But humans are different. Somehow, impossibly, you are safe for our young. More than safe. You help them feel calm in ways our own people cannot. What does this mean? Bora asked. Talshin stood to her full height. It means I must bring this to the matriarchy. It means everything might change. She looked at Tae-yang. Would your people be willing to discuss a formal arrangement? Human caretakers for Vedrick Young? Some would, Tae-yang said carefully. But others will be afraid, and the Galactic Council will see it as humans gaining too much power. Let them be afraid, Talshin said. For 800 years, we have searched for a species that could help us raise our population safely. You are the first. The only one. She moved toward the door. I will return to my fleet. We will not harm you, but there are others who will try to stop this. Be careful, Captain. She left the ship. The Vedrick warships departed soon after, disappearing into faster-than-light travel. The Horizon's promise was alone again. But everything had changed. What have we started? Daewon asked quietly. Tae-yang looked at the medical bay where 5 small Vedrick were sleeping peacefully under human care. Maybe something good. Maybe something dangerous. Probably both. 6 months later, Captain Tae-yang was no longer just a ship captain. He was Ambassador Tae-yang now, standing in the massive council chamber on Station Unity. The room was filled with representatives from 40 different species, all arguing about the same thing, humans caring for Vedrick children. This is dangerous, said Councillor Ryung, a human representative. He was 60 years old and had spent decades in galactic politics. If we align too closely with the Vedrick, we make enemies of everyone who fears them. If we do not take this opportunity, someone else will, countered Ambassador Jiwon, another human diplomat. She was practical and ambitious. The Vedrick are offering us protection, technology, and a permanent alliance. We cannot say no. Tae-yang listened to them argue. He had been in meetings like this for months now. The Vedrick matriarchy wanted to create a formal childcare exchange program. 10 human caretakers would go to Vedrick nursery worlds. 10 Vedrick juveniles would come to Earth. It sounded simple. It was not. Half the Galactic Council saw it as humans gaining too much power. The other half saw it as a chance to finally bring the Vedrick out of isolation. Nobody could agree on what to do. The vote is in 2 days, Ji-won told Tae-yang after the meeting. We need more support. We have the votes we need, Tae-yang said. Barely. Barely is not enough when dealing with the Vedrick. This needs to be overwhelming approval or people will always question it. Ji-won looked frustrated. Some species will never trust this. They remember the old wars too well. She was right. The Karathi species, in particular, had been nearly destroyed by the Vedrick 800 years ago. They voted against anything involving the Vedrick always. Their representative, Dr. Krenvol, gave speeches about how dangerous the Vedrick were, how trusting them was foolish. But Tae-yang also knew something else. On Earth, in a special facility, 5 Vedrick juveniles were thriving under human care. And on a Vedrick nursery world, Dr. Bora and 4 other humans were working successfully with dozens of young Vedrick. The program was already working. The politics just needed to catch up. That night, something happened that changed everything. Tae-yang was sleeping in his quarters when alarms started blaring. He grabbed his communicator. What is happening? Security breach at the Earth childcare facility. came the panicked reply. Armed intruders. They are trying to take the Vedric juveniles. Tae-yang was running before he finished hearing the message. He contacted the facility directly. This is Ambassador Tae-yang. Report. We are under attack, said a voice he recognized. Nurse Hyun-woo. 6 armed people broke through the perimeter. They are wearing masks. They have weapons. Where are the juveniles? Tae-yang demanded. Safe room. I am with them. But sir, they are terrified. They can sense the violence. They are broadcasting fear so strongly that I can feel it making me panic too. Hold on. Security's coming. They are trying to cut through the door, Hyun-woo said. His voice stayed calm, but Tae-yang could hear the fear underneath. Sir, if they get in here, I do not know if I can protect all 5. You will not be alone, Tae-yang said. He was already coordinating with Earth security forces. The attack lasted 12 minutes. Security arrived and stopped the intruders before they could break through to the safe room. 3 attackers were captured. 3 others escaped. None of the juveniles were harmed, but it was close. Too close. The investigation revealed something disturbing. The attackers were human extremists. People who believed that allying with the Vedric was wrong. But they had funding from somewhere else. Galactic Council funds. Someone in the council had paid humans to attack Vedric children. Counselor Ryung led the investigation personally. He found the evidence carefully hidden in financial records. Several council members from different species had pooled money together. They wanted the child care program to fail. They wanted it to fail violently and publicly, so that humans and Vedric would never trust each other again. This goes higher than we thought, Ryung told Tae-yang privately. Even Council Speaker Threndok knew about it. He did not order the attack, but he knew it was coming and did nothing to stop it. Why? Tae-yang asked. What does he gain from this? Balance, Ryung said. The Galactic Council works because everyone is afraid of everyone else. The Vedric isolated themselves, but that isolation kept many species from fighting. If humans bring the Vedric out of isolation, centuries of careful balance collapse. Threndok wants to maintain that balance even if it means children die. Tae-yang felt sick. We need to expose this. We will. But carefully. Ryung looked older than his 60 years. I was against this program at first. I thought it was too dangerous. But after seeing this, after seeing powerful people willing to hurt children to maintain their political power, I changed my mind. Sometimes doing the right thing is more important than being safe. The exposure happened 3 days later. Evidence was released showing the conspiracy. 17 council members involved, 43 operatives, funding from 6 different species. The galaxy was shocked. Speaker Threndok resigned. 3 council members were arrested. The humans who attacked the facility were sent to prison, but there was still one person who bothered Tae-yang, Dr. Krenvol, the Karathi scientist. He had not been part of the conspiracy officially, but investigation showed he had created something for them. A biological weapon. Tae-yang and Ryung went to see him in his laboratory, now under guard. Why? Tae-yang asked simply. Why create a weapon to kill children? Krenvol was an insectoid being, his species looking like upright mantises. His compound eyes showed no emotion humans could read. Because I remember, he said. My great-great-grandmother watched the Vedric burn our colonies. 2 billion Karathi died in that war. Our species has never recovered. That was 800 years ago, Ryung said. To you, maybe. To my people, it was yesterday. We tell our children the stories. We teach them to remember, to never forget what the Vedric did. Krenvol moved closer to the containment field, keeping him imprisoned. And now humans want to raise their young? To make them stronger? To help them grow their population? You are fools. Or maybe, Tae-yang said quietly, we are the ones finally trying to break the cycle. Your people suffered. That suffering was real. But killing children will not bring back the dead. It just creates more suffering. You do not understand, Krenvol said. You are right. I do not understand holding hatred for 800 years. I do not understand hurting children because of what their ancestors did. Tae-yang turned to leave. But I understand that you created a weapon that could have killed 5 innocent juveniles. That is all I need to understand. The biological weapon Krenvol created was more terrible than anyone knew. It was designed to hide inside a host without hurting them. It would wait. And when the host was around Vedric juveniles, when the juveniles were stressed or afraid, the weapon would activate. It would kill the juveniles slowly, making it look like the human caretaker had done something wrong. The weapon was meant to destroy trust between species, forever. They found it inside one of the human caretakers scheduled to go to the Vedric homeworld. A woman named Sohee. She was 29 years old and had spent months training for this assignment. She had no idea she was carrying a biological weapon inside her own body. Can you remove it? Sohee asked Dr. Bora, who had returned from the Vedric world, to help. Maybe, Bora said, but the procedure is dangerous. You could die, and if you do not remove it, the program ends. We cannot risk sending anyone to the Vedric homeworld if there is a chance they are carrying weapons we cannot detect. Sohee was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Do the procedure. You could die," Bora repeated. "Those children deserve to grow up safe," Sohee said. "If I have to risk my life to give them that chance, then that is what being a caretaker means. Do it." The operation took 12 hours. It was broadcast to both human and Vedric leadership as a show of trust and transparency. Everyone watched as Bora and a team of doctors worked to remove the weapon from Sohee's body without killing her. She survived. Barely. But the weapon had been integrated deeper than they thought. Sohee would carry traces of it in her system forever. She could never work directly with Vedric juveniles. The very thing she had trained for, sacrificed for, was now impossible. When she woke up after surgery, Tae Yang was there. "I am sorry," he said. "Do not be," Sohee replied. Her voice was weak but steady. "The program goes forward. That is what matters. I can still help train others. I can still be part of this." Her sacrifice became a symbol across the galaxy. Here was a human who had given up her dream to protect children of another species. Even the most cynical council members found it hard to argue against that. 2 weeks later, the vote happened. The Human Vedric Child Care Exchange Program was approved by overwhelming majority. 73 species voted yes. Only 4 voted no. It was not just permission. It was acceptance. On launch day, 10 human caretakers boarded a transport to the Vedric homeworld. Hyunwoo was among them. 10 Vedric juveniles arrived on Earth, including Little Claw, who had bonded so strongly with humans that they wanted to stay. Security was massive. Every precaution was taken, but the message was clear. Neither species would let fear and politics stop them from doing what was right. 5 years passed. The child care program grew beyond anyone's expectations. 200 humans now worked across 3 Vedric nursery worlds. 150 Vedric juveniles lived in facilities on Earth, and 2 other human colonies. The program was successful. It was working, but success brought new challenges. Ambassador Tae Yang was older now, 50 years old with gray in his hair. He had spent 5 years building this alliance, defending it, watching it grow. Today he stood in a chamber on the Vedric homeworld, facing the entire matriarchy council. Hundreds of war mothers filled the massive room, their scales glittering in the light. War Mother Talshin stood at the center. "The matriarchy has made a decision," she announced. "We wish to formalize the alliance through the proving." Tae Yang felt his stomach tighten. He had read about the proving in ancient Vedric texts. No species had ever attempted it. What does that mean exactly? "The proving is our oldest ritual," Talshin explained. "It tests whether another species is truly worthy to be permanent guardians of Vedric young. There are 3 trials: strength, wisdom, and sacrifice. And if we fail?" Tae Yang asked. "The alliance ends. The juveniles return home. The program stops forever." Talshin's 4 eyes focused on him. "But if you succeed, humans become Vedric kin, not allies, not friends, family. Your worlds become as our worlds. Our children become as your children." The weight of it was enormous. Tae Yang contacted Earth immediately. The human government debated for 3 days. Some said it was too risky. Others said it was the greatest opportunity in human history. Finally, they gave their answer. Yes, humanity would attempt the proving. The first trial was announced 1 month later, the trial of strength. It would test whether humans could truly protect Vedric young from any threat. The test took place on Nursery World 3, where Master Caretaker Hyunwoo led a team of 50 humans caring for 200 Vedric juveniles. Hyunwoo was 33 now, experienced and confident. He had spent 5 years learning everything about Vedric childcare. He was one of the best. The test was brutal. A massive solar flare was coming, one that would make the facility uninhabitable for weeks. Evacuation was the obvious answer, but there was a problem. Many of the juveniles were in a critical development stage. Moving them during this time could cause permanent damage. Some might die from the stress of evacuation. Hyunwoo gathered his team. We have a choice. We evacuate and keep everyone physically safe, but risk developmental harm to the juveniles. Or we stay, shield the facility as best we can, and expose ourselves to radiation. How bad is the radiation risk? Asked one of the caretakers. Bad, Hyunwoo said honestly. We could die. Even with shielding, we will be exposed to dangerous levels. The team voted. Unanimously, they chose to stay. For 3 days, they worked to reinforce the facility's shielding. The Vedrick offered to help, but Hyunwoo refused. This is our trial. We protect them our way. When the solar flare hit, it was worse than predicted. The shielding held, but barely. Radiation levels inside the facility climbed. Alarms blared. The humans took turns in the most dangerous areas, rotating to spread the exposure. Nobody complained. Nobody left their posts. Hyunwoo spent 18 hours in the worst section, personally monitoring the juveniles in critical development. By the end, he could barely stand. His radiation badge was bright red, showing dangerous exposure levels. But the juveniles were safe. All of them. Not one suffered developmental damage. Not one was harmed. 2 human caretakers were hospitalized with severe radiation poisoning. Hyunwoo was one of them. He spent 2 weeks recovering, and his doctor said he would have long-term health effects. He would never be able to have children of his own now. The radiation had damaged him permanently. When asked if he regretted his choice, Hyunwoo said simply, I am a caretaker. Those children needed protection. That is what I do. The Vedrick declared the trial of strength passed. The second trial came 3 months later while Hyunwoo was still recovering. The trial of wisdom tested whether humans truly understood what it meant to raise Vedrick young. Dr. Bora led this trial. She was 37 now, and had become the galaxy's leading expert on Vedrick juvenile development. The trial involved a juvenile entering first rage, a development stage where young Vedrick became temporarily aggressive and uncontrollable. The juvenile selected was named Sharp-Eye. He was approaching adolescence and was larger than most. When first rage hit him, he became dangerous. His claws extended, his eyes turned darker. He attacked anything that moved. Traditional Vedrick handling involved isolation in a reinforced chamber until the rage passed. It took weeks and left the juvenile traumatized. War Mother Talshin explained this to Bora. This is how we have always done it. The rage must burn itself out. But what if there is a better way? Bora asked. She proposed something revolutionary. Using human psychological techniques, she wanted to help Sharp-Eye process his aggression emotionally, instead of just physically containing it. It was dangerous. If she was wrong, Sharp-Eye could kill her. I want to try, Bora said. Talshin hesitated. If he harms you, the trial fails. The alliance ends, I know, but I believe this will work. Bora entered the chamber with Sharp-Eye alone. The juvenile was raging, destroying furniture, clawing at walls. When he saw Bora, he charged. She did not run. She stood still and spoke in a calm, steady voice. Sharp-Eye, I'm here. I am not afraid of you. He stopped, confused. His rage wanted a fight, but she was not fighting. For hours, Bora worked with him. She used breathing techniques, meditation, physical exercises designed to channel aggression into controlled movement. She talked to him about what he was feeling, helping him understand the rage instead of being controlled by it. It was the longest day of her life. Several times, Sharp-Eye nearly attacked her. Each time, she stayed calm and brought him back to center. After 14 hours, the rage broke. Sharp-Eye collapsed, exhausted. But something was different. He had passed through first rage faster than any Vedrick in recorded history, and he remembered what happened. He had been aware the whole time, learning to control himself rather than just enduring until it passed. How do you feel? Bora asked quietly. Strong, Sharp-Eye said, but in control. I understand it now. The rage is part of me, but it does not control me. The Vedrick matriarchy was stunned. Bora had not just passed the trial. She had improved on 800 years of Vedrick child-rearing practices. She had proven that humans did not just care for Vedrick young. They could help them grow in ways their own species could not. The trial of wisdom was passed. The final trial was announced at a massive ceremony attended by representatives from across the galaxy. Taeyang stood before the matriarchy, with War Mother Talshin presiding. The trial of sacrifice, Talshin announced, is the most important. It tests the heart of your species. To be true guardians of our young, you must prove that you value them as your own. She paused, and the entire chamber fell silent. A human child and a Vedric juvenile are in danger. You can only save one. Who do you choose? The question hung in the air like poison. Every species had tried to answer it. Every species had failed. Taeyang felt the weight of it. Choose human and you prove you value your own more. Choose Vedric and you prove you will sacrifice your own people for political gain. Either answer was wrong. But Taeyang had spent 5 years watching humans care for Vedric children. He had seen Hyunwoo risk his life. He had seen Sohee sacrifice her dream. He had seen hundreds of humans choose to protect Vedric young, even when it was hard. Even when it was dangerous, he knew the answer. We would save both, Taeyang said clearly, or die trying. That is what parents do, human or Vedric. We do not choose between children. We find a way to save them all. If the situation makes that impossible, then we have already failed before the choice was offered. Real strength is not in choosing. It is in refusing to accept that a choice must be made. The chamber was utterly silent. Talshin stood slowly, all 4 of her eyes focused on Taeyang. Explain. You ask who we would save. But that question assumes we accept that one must die. I reject that assumption. Taeyang stepped forward. In 5 years, we have never chosen between human safety and Vedric safety. When the facility was attacked, our people protected those juveniles with their lives. When the solar flare came, our caretakers risked radiation to keep the young ones safe. When biological weapons threatened them, one of our own underwent surgery that could have killed her to protect them. He looked around at the hundreds of war mothers watching him. You want to know if we value your children as our own? We already do. That is not something we need to prove. It is something we live every day. So if you ask me to choose between a human child and a Vedric juvenile, my answer is that I will save both or die trying, because that is what it means to be family. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Talshin began to make a sound. It started low and built higher. Other Vedric joined in. Within seconds, the entire chamber filled with the sound. Later, Taeyang would learn it was Vedric laughter. Joyful, relieved laughter. You understand? Talshin said when the sound faded. The final trial had no correct answer. Every species before you tried to logic their way through it. They tried to find the right choice. But there is no right choice when asked to let a child die. 20 years after the first distress signal, the galaxy looked very different. Admiral Taeyang walked through a park on Earth watching children play. He was 65 now, his hair completely gray, his body showing the signs of age. But his eyes were bright as he watched human children and Vedric juveniles running together, laughing in their own ways. A small human girl named Unji was building something in the sandbox. She was 3 years old and completely unafraid of the young Vedric sitting next to her. The Vedric was Little Claw's younger sibling, brought to Earth as part of the expanded program. Unji stumbled and fell, starting to cry. Immediately, the Vedric juvenile made a soft trilling sound, the same sound that Vedric young used to comfort each other. The little girl stopped crying, fascinated by the sound. The juvenile carefully helped her up with its small claws, gentle and precise. They learned from each other, said War Mother Talshin, sitting on the bench beside Taeyang. She was older too, her scales showing more scars from 20 more years of service. But she smiled as she watched the children. Your species teaches our children to be gentle, she continued. We teach yours to be strong. Together we might raise a generation that is both. The childcare program had grown beyond anyone's dreams. 600 human caretakers now worked across 8 Vedric nursery worlds. 400 Vedric juveniles lived in facilities across human space. But more than that, the model was spreading. 6 other species had approached humanity, asking if the childcare model could work for them. The answer was always the same. Let us find out together. The Mylix collective, the insectoid species, had juveniles that needed constant temperature control. Human engineers designed new facilities. The Arathi, a water-based species, had young that could not survive in air. Humans built underwater nurseries. Slowly, carefully, humanity was becoming the galaxy's caretakers. Sohee had made it all possible. She had recovered from her surgery, but never regained the ability to work directly with Vedric young. Instead, she became something else. An advocate, a teacher, a symbol. She now ran the Galactic Institute for Cross-Species Childcare, training humans and aliens alike in the principles of caring for species different from their own. Her message was simple. Children are children, no matter what species. They need safety, love, and someone willing to protect them. Dr. Bora had married the Vedrick scholar she fell in love with 5 years ago. Their union was not biological, but it was real. They lived together, worked together, and proved that even romantic connections could cross species barriers when based on genuine understanding. Nurse Hyunwoo, now Master Caretaker Hyunwoo, trained new caretakers. His body still showed the effects of radiation exposure from the trial of strength. He moved slower now, tired more easily, but when he was with Vedrick juveniles he seemed younger, stronger. Little Claw had grown into a young adult, one of the first Vedrick raised partially by humans to reach maturity. They were different from older Vedrick, still formidable, still strong, but also curious about other species, interested in art and music and ideas. Little Claw called themselves part of the bridge generation, Vedrick who would connect their people to the wider galaxy. "We are still warriors," Little Claw said in an interview that was broadcast across known space. "But we understand now that strength is not just about fighting. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is be vulnerable enough to ask for help. That is what our ancestors did when they sent that distress signal 20 years ago. They were strong enough to admit they needed humans." The interview went viral. Young Vedrick across the nursery worlds watched it. They saw one of their own speaking openly about feelings, about connection, about things traditional Vedrick never discussed. It started a cultural revolution among the Vedrick youth. Not everyone was happy about the changes. Some Vedrick traditionalists believed the opening was making their species weak. Some humans resented being seen as the galaxy's nannies. Political opposition still existed, but it was harder to maintain hatred when you were raising children together. The Karathi species, the ones who had suffered most in the ancient Vedrick War, were approached by an unexpected group. Adult Vedrick who wanted to establish a reconciliation program. They came to the Karathi homeworld not with weapons but with a simple message. "We are sorry for what our ancestors did. We cannot change the past, but we can change the future." So he had arranged it all. She believed that the same principles that worked with children could work with adults. If two species could trust each other with their most vulnerable young, they could learn to forgive ancient wrongs. Dr. Krenvol was released from prison after serving 3 years. He was met by the reconciliation delegation. At first, he wanted nothing to do with them. His hatred was too deep, too much a part of who he was. But then he saw something that changed him. A young Karathi and a young Vedrick, both barely adolescent, working together on a science project. They were friends. Real friends. They did not care about wars fought 800 years ago. They cared about their experiment and whether it would work. Krenvol watched them for a long time. Then he started to cry. 800 years of hatred, washing away as he realized that his entire life had been built on pain that these young ones did not feel. They were free of it in a way his generation never could be. He joined the reconciliation program. It did not erase what he had done, but it was a start. On the Vedrick homeworld, in the largest nursery facility, a ceremony was being prepared. The first generation of Vedrick raised under the human Vedrick program were reaching maturity. 300 young Vedrick who had never known a time when humans were not part of their lives. They were having a graduation ceremony, something the Vedrick had never done before. It was a human tradition, adapted for Vedrick culture. Hyunwoo attended, weak but determined. He sat in the front row, watching the young Vedrick he had helped raise receive their adult names and assignments. When Little Claw's sibling, the one who had comforted young Yoonji in the park, walked across the stage, Hyunwoo felt tears in his eyes. "That one will be a diplomat," Talshin whispered to him. "They have decided to work in cross-species relations. Because of you. Because you showed them that different species can care for each other." After the ceremony, the graduates gathered for a traditional Vedrick war dance. It was aggressive, powerful, showing the strength that made Vedrick the apex predators of the galaxy. But then something new happened. The humans who had raised them joined the dance. The movement changed. It became something else. Not war, not peace. Something in between. A celebration of strength used to protect rather than destroy. The galaxy watched through broadcasts. They saw what the Human Vedrick Alliance had created. A new kind of Vedrick, still dangerous when needed, but also capable of gentleness. Still warriors, but also artists and scientists and diplomats. The bridge generation was real, and they would change everything. In the Galactic Council chamber, now under new leadership after the scandals of 20 years ago, a proposal was being discussed. 6 species wanted to create a permanent Department of Cross-Species Childcare, modeled on humanities programs. It would be led jointly by humans and Vedrick, but open to any species willing to participate. The vote was overwhelming. Yes. So he was appointed as the first director. At her acceptance speech, she said something that resonated across the galaxy. 20 years ago, we found 5 scared children who needed help. We could have left them. We could have followed the rules and avoided the politics. But we chose to care. That choice changed everything. It did not just save those 5 juveniles. It saved all of us from the cycle of fear and hatred that had trapped the galaxy for centuries. She paused, looking around at representatives from dozens of species. The galaxy is full of differences. Different biology, different cultures, different histories. But children are universal. Every species has young ones who need protection, guidance, and love. If we can learn to care for each other's children, we can learn to care for each other. That is the lesson humanity learned. That is what we offer to share. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. In a quiet moment later, Taeyang found himself back on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise. The ship had been retired years ago, preserved as a museum. He stood where he had stood 20 years before, when he made the choice to investigate that distress signal. Bo-Ra joined him. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had followed orders? If you had ignored the signal? Every day, Taeyang admitted. But I also know I made the right choice. Sometimes the rules need to be broken for something more important. For children, Bo-Ra said. For children, Taeyang agreed. They stood in comfortable silence, 2 old friends who had changed the galaxy together. Outside the viewport they could see Earth, and orbiting nearby a Vedrick nursery station, one of 5 in human space. Ships move between them constantly. Humans going to Vedrick worlds, Vedrick coming to human worlds. Not as strangers, not as allies, as family. The final scene of this story is simple. A classroom on Earth, 30 years after the first distress signal. A human teacher is reading a history lesson to a mixed class of human and Vedrick children. They are learning about the distress signal incident, as it was now called, the moment everything changed.